family there, which is usually miserable, except in this case it was like, oh, people to watch our kids while we work. So
Here I am with Eli Stokols. He's White House reporter at Politico, author of the West Wing Playbook at Politico. You can follow him at Eli Stokols. I greet you, sir.
Nice to be with you in person one of these,
right?
One of these times.
I only ever see you on TV, but I feel like we're friends.
I feel like we're friends just from coming on your show. Yes. It's a real friendly vibe around here, even though many of us have never been in studio with you, so this is a first.
What does Politico have, 46,000 people here?
I think there's 15,000 journalists here, so every contingent feels like a little much.
Mm-hmm. And there's only 5,000 delegates.
Yeah, we have, 3 reporters for one delegate.
3 to 1.
No, we've got a lot of programming at the CNN Politico Grill, and there are a lot of reporters here. Our White House team is here. Our politics team is here. A lot of our Hill team is here, just because, the entire party is in one place. And this is one of those opportunities to really, pin people down in the hallway who sometimes, I guess the Congress reporters get to do that every day, but we don't. So it's exciting to, just see all these folks running around and be able to pepper them with questions. And
give us the palace intrigue. What is the atmospheric like in the Harris campaign?
I think it's stressed but pretty upbeat. Obviously this is nuts, right? This isn't done to just take over a campaign at the end of July.
No, but if I had to do it, I'd want to do it that way.
It sets up great for her, and I think they are aware of that. There's a lot to do. They're bringing in new people, sort of, fitting them in with the old team, and there's senior advisors layered on top of that, and there's a lot of activity, but it feels like everyone is pulling in the same direction. They recognize that they have changed the trajectory of the race for the better for the Democratic ticket, that down ballot is impacted. There's just a lot of enthusiasm and I think relief among the party to have a viable nominee. When, again, we got into late July and it didn't seem like that was going to be the case. So I think the campaign is hoping to ride this wave as long as they can, at the same time trying to be, under the hood, tweaking the engine and changing things and making sure that they are doing all the things they need to do. I think organizationally, this was a campaign that was built to really out-organize the Republicans, to get people who are not enthused about the president seeking another 4 years, to figure out a way to get those people mobilized. And now that infrastructure exists, but they have a candidate that people are actually excited about. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's some optimism that, look, we built this campaign to maybe drag people to the polls to vote for a president they prefer wasn't running again. Now they have a nominee and a vice presidential nominee that people are actually excited about. It's the drama, the surprise element of this just happening a month ago, I think is also part of the excitement. Like, people still can't believe it. And so I think the campaign is really just trying to capitalize on the enthusiasm, to strengthen the operation, to make sure the vice president has people around her she trusts, who can execute. But this is, I won't say they're making it up as they go, but there's a lot that is happening on the fly.
Improvisational campaign. Interesting, because it does, from the outside, it does seem quite professional.
It is professional, but there's also a sense that, year one of this administration, I think a lot of people watched Vice President Harris publicly and said, I don't know if that looks like a person who's super confident in their role, who knows how to be yet, how to do the interviews, what role to play, where she stands with Biden and his aides who have been around for 40 years. I think now she's just a much more confident person in her being in this position.
Well, she got so much grief at the beginning, and I feel like it really put the zap on her head. When an entire nation is telling you suck, that'll get to you.
Right, and I feel like she's now out of her own head and trusting her instincts and trusting the people that she has around her. The drama in her office really kind of dropped off in year two, and she's sought out a lot of media coaching, and she's worked on things that were perceived as deficits. But she also has a team around her that she trusts now. And I think they are listening to their own instincts. And she also has some issues. The Dobbs decision really gave her, right, this was something that, talking about reproductive rights, President Biden was never comfortable in that space. This gave her an issue and something to go out and own and to kind of build relationships around, and she's done that. And so there's a lot that she's done in the last couple of years that I think have given her more confidence to be in this position. And the relationships that she's just built with people around Washington, people in the media, people in Congress, donors, activists.
Wall
that
Street.
takes time. That takes time. And I think that, she is at a point now where she feels like, okay, these people know me a little bit. I know them. I know what I'm doing. Let's go do it.
And there's such a shared sense of mission, too. Like the imperative to defeat Trump sort of seems to galvanize. Happily for her, in a way, that, with Biden, there was a reluctance, as you described. But with her, there's much more enthusiasm, even as they confront that.
I mean, it's night and day. And I think what's interesting is, she doesn't need to make it explicit that, right when Trump attacks her and says she just became black, she just kind of shrugged it off and said, the same old stuff from him again, right? She's not getting too up in arms. Biden for a long time was just trying to almost scare people into like, you can't vote for Trump. Trump's so terrible. You have to vote for me. And she's not needing to do that convincing, right? People are excited to vote for her. And so she doesn't have to be she doesn't have to press so hard in talking about, Trump is a threat to democracy. You don't have to speak about it in those grave terms. She could make history as the first woman president, first, black and Asian American woman president. She's not really centering that in her campaign either. That's obvious. That's understood.
Why not?
Well,
wouldn't that be a benefit?
My colleague and wife, Elena Schneider, just wrote about this morning. I think that what that story says is that they know that the people who really care about that, they're already with her. The people she needs, that's not going to be the thing that gets them to support Kamala Harris over a basically 3-month campaign at this point. They need to focus on telling those voters what she wants to do, who she is, and present a picture of her that convinces them that she will be a credible president. They can see her in the office after this week, after her speech. They can see her in this job and feel like, okay, I trust her. She knows what she's doing. That's what they need to do. They don't need to remind people that she can make history. They don't need to remind people of who Donald Trump is. Everyone knows who Donald Trump is at this point. And so I think they are just, that's an advantage she has. And I think that they are just trying to make this as much as they can about her vision and a positive sort of upbeat vision of her. And that's not the darker tones about lose democracy.
I don't want to be too high-minded about our politics, right?
Yeah.
But it does seem to me like that shows a certain amount of cultural progress on our part. That the fact that she is a woman of color is noted, but there are other things to discuss.
And we've come a long way since 2016 when Hillary ran, and she was, there was a white pantsuit and the glass ceiling of the Javits Center that night, and it was, I'm with her, right? And with Harris, it's more sort of like, we're working for you. And it's more of what Obama did in 2008 when obviously his candidacy was historic, but he didn't need to underline that for people. And I think, 2016 was a moment in time a long time ago. Now we've had the Me Too movement since then. We've had Dobbs, right? We've all these things that have galvanized women. Donald Trump is already out there doing further damage to his standing with women. The gender gap in this election is huge already. It's not something where she's going to gain much more ground by saying, oh, don't forget about this. People know it. And women voters and sort of swing voters, they have other reasons that are going to motivate them to come out. These errors by the Republican ticket, I just don't even understand the way they talk about women. Women vote? The J.D. Vance comments are wild. And you just sometimes want, we heard for a long time about, well, this is a very professionalized Trump campaign. And maybe they did show some restraint in like skipping the primary debates and just acting like this was a coronation because it was. And Trump was able to sort of stay off that debate stage and not take the incoming from Republicans. But he cannot at this point. Now, maybe he was somewhat serene at the RNC when they were running against Biden. But this is the same guy he's always been. And when he feels threatened and he's frustrated, he's going to lash out. There's no self-control. There never has been. And seeing the race switch on him, where now he's running against someone younger, someone who's generating the kind of enthusiasm and crowds that he generated 8 years ago, when he's now on his third run saying the same stuff, it is kind of stale. And I don't think he knows what to do with that. And how to change that and how to get the attention back on him, right? He craves attention more than anything. His entire presidency was just, where are the cameras? Come into the Oval Office, talk to me. Like, he was always performing for the media, and he's struggling at this point to get the focus back on him. And I think that just tells you a lot about the dynamic in the race and how it changed so drastically when Harris replaced Biden, because now she is the new exciting thing. She is the focal point in this race the way he was in the race 8 years ago. And, you know, he's frustrated. He's kind of flailing. And generally when he gets into these places where he doesn't know how to fix it, he can spiral, he can wallow, and that doesn't produce a better version of him. It generally reminds people of what they don't want. And I just think, you know, the echo chamber, right, that gets him to pick a person like J.D. Vance, who's like a little mini-me, but doesn't help him expand the electorate much. You know, you're seeing some of the problems of that when Vance's past comments and then Vance's current comments and all these things. I mean, what was
Vance's
he saying?
Future comments.
What was he saying last week about the ethnic enclaves and the gangs of New York and like a police union? He was talking about the Irish and crime. I mean, it's sometimes shocking how they just don't seem to have any either staffing or knowledge to like maybe don't say this at this. It's sort of remarkable to watch, and that's not to say that things can't change in this race and that it's not still a close election, but the day-to-day events have just, for a month now, they have not been working to the Republican ticket's advantage. Things have been trending towards this new Democratic ticket, and we'll see how that continues after this week, and if, you know, at what point that can change, or maybe it won't.
Eli Stokols, White House reporter and author of the West Wing Playbook at Politico. You can follow him, at Eli Stokols. You're the best. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Fun to be with you in
Real
person.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Coming up, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. I'm Julie Mason. You're listening to and enjoying Sirius XM. Thank you so much.
Sorry if that was long.
No, it was perfect.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the shit he says.
And he's campaigning all week.
I know.
That's lunatic.
He's lazy to go out himself.
Yeah.
So he sends JD out, and like JD makes a mess of it. The thing when he was like walking up to Air Force 2 and was like, "I just want to see my plane." And he just looks like he's like
chud.
after her.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah.
It's just embarrassing. So we'll see. I mean, it's still pretty close, but
Yeah.
the trend line is what it is. It's good to see you. Have a good week.
Take care. Yes.
Hi there, Congress.
Help her with that chair. The chair is crazy. It's going to run away.
There you go.
Okay. As loud as possible.
Well, here's volume if you need it, and a cough button.
What do I do?
Is this the volume right here? For
That's the
headphones?
volume, yeah.
This is your volume right here, so you can turn it up.
I think I got.
Okay.
What I hear now is
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah, you're
I'm
good.
Okay.
It's so nice to see you.
So nice to see you too.
Man, Chicago looks beautiful.
Chicago is beautiful.
It is.
So-
Okay. Oh, picture.
I lie to people and say, well, of course, that's why I live in Chicago. The weather is so great. But this is a beautiful week.
Thank you so much for being with me. My guest, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, is a Democrat of Illinois, representing the state's 9th congressional district. Welcome, ma'am.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's nice to see you close up.
Right?
And personal, Julie.
In Chicago.
In Chicago, my
All
hometown,
places.
born and bred.
It's beautiful all the time.
All the time. Yeah, you come any season and you will love Chicago.
Any season?
Well, remember in the summer, though, we have 25 beaches, no sharks. No sharks. Come on.
But so it's always beautiful here, but they really spruced up. It's absolutely extraordinary how great the city looks. I mean, it's just every vista gorgeous.
It is. It is a beautiful city.
It really is. And the people are super nice because, you know, being in D.C., it's not always nice there.
Oh, people are down to earth, you know?
Yes.
Yes, and that's why, you know, the theme for today is for the people.
Mm-hmm.
We get that. Mm-hmm. We are always willing to give instructions if you get lost. We can send you to the best restaurants. We can just be nice to you if you need help.
Imagine that.
For the people.
Whew. Things to discuss. What is your job at this convention? What do they have you doing?
Well, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm talking about what's happening right now, how people are feeling, what my constituents are saying.
And what are they saying?
They're so happy. They really, really are. And we're doing something really special. We have Operation Swing State.com. So we are going to Wisconsin and to Michigan. People are signing up by the hundreds
volunteers
and hundreds.
to go
Yes.
stay in another state.
Knocking doors.
Right, if you're from a non-swing state, to go to a swing state and talk to people, knock on doors.
Yeah, that's how we win. This is not rocket science. We just have to get out and do the work.
It is rather quaint, though, isn't it, that still works in a country this big, 330 million people, and knocking on doors is an effective policy.
I think the most, really, that personal contact is the way people, you know, start thinking about it. Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, and effective. All right, and the delegation, how's the Illinois delegation?
You know,
Rowdy?
No, the Illinois delegation is fantastic, all ready to be in the majority. And I want to tell you, I believe in the trifecta, the House, the Senate, and the White House. That's what I'm going for.
Are you jinxing it? You're going to jinx it.
No, we can do this. I'm telling you, we are in a position to. You know, the pundits and the pollsters are all saying about, oh, it's the margin of error. You know what I say? It's the margin of effort. Seriously,
Nice.
We can beat that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're feeling good about prospects in the House for the Democratic Party.
I feel really, really confident. This has been the least effective session of Congress ever. And really, it hasn't been because fights between Republicans and Democrats. It's Republicans and Republicans.
Yeah.
They can't get their act together.
Right.
But I'm excited about today because I want the proper thanks to Joe Biden. You know, when we say today's theme is for the people, that's all he was. He did, you know, he was the most pro-labor.
He's still with us.
No, I know, and he's got time yet to go. But I'm saying that, yes, absolutely, because we still have time, and I hope we're going to have, but Joe kind of defined that, what ordinary people really need, lowering the cost of prescription drugs, all the jobs that were created, more jobs than anyone. It's been amazing what he has been able to accomplish.
And also because he actually meant it.
Oh, totally. And all his years in the Senate and all the years in the, you know, knowing what can be done, he did it. And so I just think that this night is going to be a great night. I really look forward to just so much thanks to him, including, I think, what was an amazing act of just generosity to turn it over and announce that it was Kamala Harris. I think has been absolutely terrific, and I know my folks are very excited, but still very grateful to Joe Biden.
It's hard to read that he still has bitterness about having to step aside.
Well, I hope not, and I hope that he sees how grateful we all are, and not just for turning it over to Kamala, but the legacy that he is leaving right now for, you know, so many people, the environment, among other things. I mean, he has been such a remarkable leader. We're going to be looking at that agenda and asking Kamala Harris to extend it now. And, you know, he has set the stage. So I hope he doesn't. I stuck with Joe, you know, all the way through. But when he made that decision, he named her. And I think that was a great thing to do.
Congresswoman, I think a lot of us were surprised by how quickly the party coalesced behind her. We thought there'd be more of a fight or more of a question of was she capable, was she up to it? But the rapidity with which everything came together was astonishing.
I think it's also that it's not just this historic thing, which of course is great, a woman of color, that she was ready. And we're really finding out more and more about that and about her. Not just her background, but what she wants to do moving forward. I really feel that she surprised some people, that she was so ready to take the mantle right now.
Andrea Mitchell was a guest on this show earlier before you got here, and she was talking about watching Kamala Harris at the Munich Security Conference. First year, not quite knowing what her role, what she needed to be doing, not a lot of confidence, but then over the years seeing her grow and mature into the role where she knew what she was doing and what she was there to talk about, and she said you could see it before your eyes, the maturation of her political persona.
Well, when you say maturation, what we're looking for is the sense of confidence that she's exuding.
Right.
You know, she is, ready to take on Donald Trump. She's ready to take on anybody. She feels that sense of confidence. That's what women need more of, and I think she will be a role model for that.
Well, and that's another thing, too, just chatting about this with Eli Stokols, that the fact that she's not playing up gender and race issues, to me, is a sign of progress, right?
I totally agree with that.
It's like important, but not central.
No, but it's also pretty obvious, right?
Right.
I mean,
doesn't need to be stated.
Exactly.
Right.
It's there. Exactly. And the kinds of things that she is talking about on the economy, on going after people who are raising, businesses that are raising prices right now, what she wants to do for the child tax credit, which you may remember reduced child poverty
in half.
By half. You know, she's ready to go with that agenda. And I am hoping that in the time remaining that Joe will lead the way too with her on the kinds of things that she should be brave and strong and move ahead on with him.
And her husband also, Doug Emhoff, seems quite an asset.
You know, Doug Emhoff is the only male who ever spoke at my Ultimate Women's Power lunch. Yes, because we wanted him, because we have men come too, to kind of tell people how to be a really good partner to a woman. And I saw him yesterday at the airport because we welcomed both of them, that couple, home. And he said, thank you, because you really believed in me. That was so sweet.
That's kind.
Yes.
Because it's a politics kind of new-ish to him, certainly at this level. But he just seems to have a ball with it.
He's good at it. He's going to be a great first gentleman. The relationship seems good, and he's comfortable. Don't we all wish that our men, and mine is, really cheering for his wife and being a great supporter. That's what he talked about to my women and to the men in the audience when I had him.
I've got to get my husband to listen, and my husband says that all feminists are just ugly women who can't get a boyfriend.
And does she?
He married me.
Is he someone with the J.D. Vance? I mean, come on.
I think he's just trolling. I think he's just trolling. But that mindset does exist out there. You know, there's still I don't have to tell you, plenty of sexism and ageism and everything else afoot. And to think of Kamala Harris, Hakeem Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer leading this country, are we there yet?
Is this?
In America, are we there yet to have Kamala Harris, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer leading the country?
You know, I absolutely think so. When I have seen this turnout of energy and hope, I will say, before Joe turned over to Kamala, we were afraid. And so the idea was we have to win because we have to beat Trump. It's a little different now. We have to win because when we do, we can change the country this trifecta I mentioned can change everything right now if we do it all. So I think people are ready. Certainly young people are ready for it. Women are ready for it. People of color
Women were
are
ready 10
for it.
years ago.
Yeah, we've been ready, and we've been waiting. Yeah. Yeah,
But
no,
it's
good.
when you think back to Geraldine Ferraro, right? And what
I was at that convention.
You were?
Yeah.
and now here we are. Right? Just a culture change in America.
Yeah, and I do think people are ready for that. And let's remember, too, reproductive rights is on the ballot, literally, in 8 states right now. So, don't write off Florida. People are working hard in these states. We won on that issue in Ruby Red, Kansas. So I just think that, and black women are beside themselves. They're going to be all out. I'm telling you, women can save the day. But we're going to get our brothers out there, too. Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. She's a Democrat of Illinois representing the state's 9th Congressional District. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's been such a joy. Thank you
Wonderful
so
to
much,
see you. I hope you
Julie.
have a great week.
Thank you. You too.
I'm Julie Mason. This is SiriusXM. Stay with me.
Julie, I had an 80.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Oh, I'm so happy. A treat to get you on. Okay, so you were definitely getting Granholm at 4:45. I'm canceling fusing. She cannot get granular on energy shit. It's all about the campaign.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just telling you because they warned me. They're like, she's here.
Right,
Totally
right. But we could get John on a different day.
Yes, I'll try to get on another day. But
Thanks.
It seemed like the obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
So Ted Johnson's next and the final guest is actually Secretary General. I'll send it to you. There we go.
10 seconds, Ted.
10 seconds.
Pull it together. Come on. Well, I'm so delighted to welcome my good friend Ted Johnson back. He's a reporter for Deadline. You can follow him at Ted Stew. I'm just looking at your IRV here, Ted. You've been busy, of course. What have you filed, like 146 stories since you got here this morning?
It has been quite busy since I've been
I
here.
always see you running around, but I never see you writing. Where do you do? There's a secret lair you go to type?
I have my own secret blog.
Ted, I'm really worked up about the influencers, and I'm mad about it, and I'm going to get into a fist fight.
I was on the floor yesterday, and I saw this big area for the influencers. And I said,
like one
I
seat
bet
for
Julie's going to have something to say about this.
I have a lot to say about it. Everywhere you look, it's like an influencer lounge, and they're streaming this thing vertically for the influencers. And really, okay, I'm going to remember that later.
I was just up in the press area, and we're fighting over little power strips.
Yes, yes,
just
exactly
to get one
right.
last power strip.
Just want to charge my phone, and you just can't. But the influencers have like beanbag chairs and special lighting and snacks and But I mean, it's not.
I like that sound.
It's not a terrible idea for them to do it, and then that makes me even angrier.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny because, as annoying it probably can be for the mainstream media, because we're in
We're here
They're
to do
actually
a
good
job, and they're
seats.
just
They're
here
good
to...
seats. I have to say, they're good seats. But it's just for a lot of journalists, especially for publications that have cut back on the budget, it is a logistical challenge.
Yeah. And those parasites just take our work, right, and then put it on TikTok, and it's like, I'm an influencer.
How do you become? I guess my question is, how do you become an influencer? Do you just
do you
wake
want
up and
tips?
say,
Do you want to know how?
I'm influencing people?
So many people aspire to it because it doesn't seem like real work, but man, there's a lot of hustle to it.
Yeah, that's definitely the secret about it. Is
Yeah.
that there's a lot more work. I have spoken to people who said, I want to be an influencer, and then they kind of realized,
The commitment.
You only hear about the people who've made, a fortune, but those are far and few between. I mean, it's like becoming a star. I mean, it's different from journalism, and journalism is that you can still make a living.
I wonder about the durability of it, though, Ted. If you become like a really successful influencer at age 26, right, and you're making a bank, but then, the next new thing comes along, then what do? You got to go get a job?
The next new thing comes along, and then the next new platform comes along. I mean, what's it going to be 5 years from now? At the last convention, or 2016, the last in-person convention, no one was talking about TikTok.
No.
They were still focused on Facebook
and Twitter,
Twitter, and getting content, and so the platforms can change, and that changes, who has the best talent.
No, it's not about who's best, Ted, because we're the best. We're professionals. We have apprenticeship, we have rigors, we have rules and standards. They just have like streaming and glitter.
I did see the blue carpet walking here. That is just right around the corner, and Dean Phillips was on the blue carpet. The blue carpet is like the red carpet, but it's meant for the influencers to get good video and good interviews with different lawmakers.
What are you wearing, Dean Phillips? Do you think he looks like Duchovny?
Kind of a mix between Duchovny and Harrison Ford.
Really? Harrison Ford?
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw him. I
to take another hard
kind
look.
Of a Harrison Ford look.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are you covering here, Ted? And the most important question, Beyonce. What?
Well, it's still a rumor right now. They're being very cagey as to whether she makes an appearance. But, I mean, it's what a lot of people are talking about, that by the end of the week, it makes sense. She gave permission for Kamala Harris to use the song Freedom, and in the same way that Fleetwood Mac appeared at the 1992 DNC for the Clinton campaign. I think that, which was a very, turn-the-page election, moving from one generation to the next. So there'd be a lot of symbolism to it.
I confess I really enjoy seeing like clips of Al Gore from back then.
Oh, sure,
it's so funny when he was doing the Al Gore Macarena. Which is just him staring straight ahead.
There is a clip of that has been on social media for like 2 years of the DNC. That was in '96, where everyone was doing the Macarena. If people don't know what the Macarena was, it was this dance craze that was very popular for about 6 weeks in the summer of 1996, and then it disappeared.
Blessedly.
Yes,
it did not need a longer life.
No.
But of course, Democrats wanted to keep it going. I feel like they're going to do it here this week. I think we're going to hear the opening strains of Macarena, and half the room is going to rise to their feet.
They will do, yes. I wouldn't doubt it.
Right?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Going to be thinking about you. And I think a lot of people are wondering about Taylor Swift, but I don't see that.
No, I think that if she were to endorse, and I have my doubts, if she were to endorse, I would think that they would do it as their own special event. So further in the fall, when perhaps it might pack a little more punch. This you're competing with, all sorts of things. Not that, that'll be the problem with her coming and endorsing Kamala Harris at the convention, especially if she did it on Thursday, is it upstages
everything else.
Speech.
I mean, best to do a standalone. No, you're absolutely right.
I always think back to 2012 and when Clint Eastwood spoke before the Republican convention, and he went on right before Mitt Romney's convention speech.
Yeah.
And as people were coming out of that convention. News reporters were not asking delegates anything about Romney's speech. They were just asking about Clinton's
The chair.
The chair.
The chair.
Yeah.
That was really strange. You've written about the celebrity hosts at the convention. How are Democrats going to strike a balance, without getting too overwhelmed, which I believe they did 4 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years ago, and Kerry Washington was also one of the hosts 4 years ago. Tony Goldwyn is a host tonight. These are all Mindy Kaling. These are all figures that I would say are non-controversial. No one's going to watch them and say that's a polarizing figure, and I can't believe they put that person on stage. So I think it's going to be. They're trying to strike a balance of having some celebrity quotient, but making it somewhat low key,
mild and likable.
No one's going to. James Taylor performing tonight. No one's going to come away and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe that James Taylor was performing." I mean, he's going to play "You've Got a Friend," I think, because he was just rehearsing in United Center. I just heard him. I think that there is awareness on the part of the planners that, as much as Hollywood is supporting Kamala Harris, the breakdown I would estimate is about 80% to 20% in Hollywood. As much as that is happening, you can't overdo it.
Because for all the, honestly, progressivism of this ticket, there's not a lot of gay stuff.
There is not. It's funny, I was just earlier today at the LGBTQ plus caucus, and Tim Walz actually addressed them this afternoon. And I think that the LGBT movement is going through an interesting period where there's not one figure who is the lead organizer.
There's also not one main threat other than Trump and this sort of anti-trans crusade.
Yeah, and it's a very different environment from the conventions of 2008 and 2012 when gay marriage was still very much on the table. But trans issues obviously very, very important, especially because Trump in his convention speech attacked trans rights. And at this convention, there is a obvious contrast where that is a part of the platform, but it's not being highlighted so far yet. And Tim Walz actually has a really good story about this. He, in 1999, when he was football coach at that high school in Mankato, they wanted to start a gay-straight alliance, and he says, "I will be the faculty advisor." This was in 1999, before same-sex marriage was a big deal, before acceptance. And he said, "I think it's important for you to have a football coach who is your faculty advisor." So it's a story he has told several times, I think, on the campaign trail, and that'll probably be highlighted at various moments throughout the campaign.
Well, I know that polling for gay marriage has dropped, and I would hate to think that Democrats were being leery of the issue because it was losing public support.
Yeah, I think it's almost like this kind of backlash has been. They've rolled up trans rights and gay marriage into one thing. It's just kind of, that's the other. That's not the traditional family. It's happened before. We've seen it before, but I think you're right. It's kind of interesting how that hasn't been highlighted so far by Harris or Tim Walz. We'll see if it's highlighted
at the convention.
This week, because Kamala Harris herself has a very strong track record. She was among the people who officiated one of the weddings of the Supreme Court plaintiffs back in 2013.
And she's already a gay icon, Ted.
She already is a gay icon.
She really is.
Yes.
She really is. Ted Johnson is a reporter for Deadline. You can follow him at Ted Stew. I hope you have the best convention ever, Ted.
You too.
Thanks. Every convention is the best convention.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care. Coming up in just a few, Jennifer Granholm. I got to take a little break. I'll be back with the secretary. Stay with me. You're listening to Sirius XM.
together for 7 minutes. And then
7 minutes.
How are you?
Really good to see you. Good to see you. Last time I interviewed you, I had pink hair, and you laughed the entire time.
I did not.
You did. It was
admiring your boldness, I'm sure.
Can I get a picture of the two?
Oh yeah.
Very nice. Okay, thank you.
All right. So we're all politics, no energy. I got the message.
All politics.
I know this. Oh, I'm sorry. You got the right. Here you go. Sorry. Apologies.
Questioning my mechanical skills.
Just turn out.
Can you hear the buzz? Bzzz. Psst. The excitement.
The ground trembling beneath our feet.
You look fabulous. How are you?
I am so great. Great
glad to
be.
hear it.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is super exciting.
Democrats seem reborn. They really do.
Yep, we are feeling very energized also.
Grandhome weighs in.
What am I weighing in on?
DNC, Harris Walls. Grandhome visits Michigan. Okay. 10 seconds, Secretary.
Are we live?
Yeah.
You always are live. A live wire.
Well, in her day job, she's energy secretary. But for our purposes, just hanging out at the convention, just another Democrat feeling good about things. Jennifer Grandhome, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. Great
Really
to be
great to
hanging
see
out
you.
with you.
Right. So, what's your job here at the convention? What's your task?
Well, obviously, my task. I want to be here as part of this history-making thing and watch the president. Obviously, tonight pass the torch, but also just really get the feel for this incredible sense of energy that has been born in the democratic space. I'm so excited by how much activity is happening, how much enthusiasm there is, how many volunteers have raised their hand, how many people on the ground there are across the country that have said they're going to knock on doors or make phone calls. I mean, it's really palpable.
And also that it all seems to be working out, you know, that it came together. We always count on Democrats to sort of blow things up, to make a mess. You know, it's part of the process, but this was just like these pieces just snapped into place.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I think there is such an incredible sense of excitement is that this is, we should arguably be having campaigns that are much more condensed, concentrated,
yes,
not
very short.
2 years long. But having something that's going to happen within a few months, I think is very exciting. And the freshness of Walz bringing to his perspective to this, as well as, of course, Kamala Harris, and people hadn't really been paying attention as much to her, and now they are, and they like what they see, and they feel like, I've known her for a long time. I went to her wedding. I've known her since she was in California.
How'd you meet her?
She and I were part of a Women Get Elected thing, and I'm a little older than she is, and so I was one of the sort of mentor persons that were part of this entity. And back then, you could just tell, she obviously is charming, etc., but she had something else, sometimes she's got the it thing. And I think people are just starting to see that now. They're seeing, and it's not just that she's charming, it is that she's got substance and seriousness, and that prosecutorial experience gives her a sense of gravitas on many things. So the speech that she gave on Friday, for example, on the economy, it was serious. She had a series of policy proposals that she was going to give, and she can be tough. She can be really smart, ask the toughest questions, but she's able to prosecute the case, not just on policy, but against Donald Trump as well.
I feel like we've really seen her grow in confidence in the office.
It seems that way, doesn't it? I mean, I think she's been confident, But I think putting her out there more and more gives people the notion that, hey, she is confident. So that perhaps lends itself to the impression that she's grown. And I think she has, of course, because, when you're put into a new position as vice president and you haven't done it before and you haven't served on the federal level,
of course.
you've got a lot to learn, right? So that it does create a level of confidence the longer you've been there. But she is really she's come into her own. And when I was first elected, I remember somebody saying to me, who knew me from way back, like, wow, you've really taken on this position. And, I was like, sometimes you grow into the boots that you were given. And I think she's really been amazing.
Now, even though she's from California and very closely associated with that state, I think just because of the conventions and waltz, there's just a Midwestern flavor.
I love that you say that. That makes me so
really
happy.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
You know what I love?
Michigan?
Yes. Yeah. I was just talking with somebody about this because Waltz, he brings this sense of like no nonsense, mind your own damn business. I feel like that mind your own damn business, when we're talking about like reproductive freedom, right? Get out of my doctor's office. Get out of my uterus. Mind your own damn business. Let me choose the kind of when and whether I'm going to have children. And that notion of freedom, too, that she has chosen. I love the Beyonce song as a sort of undergirding for that, because we know that Republicans have sort of wrapped themselves in the flag and proclaimed freedom, when in fact, when you are making choices on behalf of other people, you're not letting them to be free. When I have to worry about my grandchild in the classroom being shot down, I don't feel a sense of freedom about that. I feel like it's really serious. So that, your freedom ends, where my nose begins. But there's just been such a push on the Republican side to intrude on people's life choices. This Project 2025, as an example, it's really heavily laden with, religious. I don't even think. Religious in the sense that...
the imposition of a religion on people, it's not American.
Right, it's not American, and I don't think it's what Jesus would do either.
No.
But anyway, I think that notion has been really declining people to have freedom of worship, freedom of choice, freedom of movement. The freedom, I love the idea of using freedom as an undergirding to be able to provide child tax credits. I mean, it's free, I was just at Wendy's yesterday, I hate to say, my favorite fast food of choice, and the woman at the counter I was just driving through, and I said, Glenn, you look tired. I hate it when people say that to me, but she did look tired, and she said, I am tired of this. I've been working for 14 hours. It's my second shift. I can't do it because I have kids. I mean, really, the ability to give somebody who's working 2 jobs at fast food the ability to have some breathing room, as the president would say, that's freedom.
When she has that line in her ad about working one job to pay the bills, I think that resonated with a lot of Americans.
Yeah, 100%. People feel like I should be able to make a good wage. This is why, honestly, because having been governor of Michigan, the idea of the Inflation Reduction Act and what it has done from a policy perspective, I know you're a policy nerd, but the fact that it's actually been having positive results across the country, thousands of factories opening up, this lowest unemployment rate in 50 years, all of that stuff, the more jobs created than under any term of any president in the history of the United States because of policy, she cast a deciding vote for that. And the fact that she can claim that and say, I'm, in providing people good paying jobs, especially manufacturing jobs, which tend to be better paid and tend to have benefits, that gives people freedom as well.
So you've wrested freedom back from the Republicans.
We're taking it.
You're going to get the eagle next?
Eagle. We're taking it all.
Flag,
eagle, freedom, you name it.
The color red, you're wearing it, obviously.
I'm wearing
red.
Look at Beyonce's claiming country music. We're taking it all back.
It's all happening. Jennifer Grandhome, you're Secretary of Education. What a pleasure to see.
But anyway, I'm here in my personal capacity. So
here in her personal capacity. It's wonderful to see you.
Great
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, hey, I've been so busy doing all these interviews, I haven't even had a chance really to look at Blue Sky. So I'm looking now at some of your comments. Let's see. Jonathan with an H and an O says, we saw Kamala in City Hall where we got gay married before Prop 8 passed. Popularity should not interfere with our rights, but we've seen how that goes. Yeah, I'm not accusing the Democrats, 100% not, but there is a definite lack of gay flavor at this convention. The non-gender prayer room notwithstanding. But I wonder about that. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that all this week, and I will report back. And speaking of reporting, I got to tell you guys the scandal of the convention so far. Day one is that most of the press are out here in these pavilions, and there's those giant porta potty restrooms. And they are also gender neutral. But the walls between the stalls are basically transparent. Like, it's not, you can't just actually see through it, but you can see figures and shadows and stuff. People are not happy. People are not happy. By which I mean my friends. But anyway, that's all the hype here at Media Row. They call it Media Row, not Radio Row. I don't like that. I like Radio Row. Let's see. EJ8 says, hope you'll check again with the secretary that the nukes are safe and secure. That's such a great little sound clip. There are not a lot of government officials who have that kind of self-confidence where you can just ask them like a funny, like off the top. That was my first interview with her, like, how are the nukes? And she just rolled with it and laughed. And then I was reminding her the next time I interviewed her, it was over Zoom, and I had pink hair, and she laughed the entire time. And she said she wasn't laughing, she was in tribute, and she liked it. So Democrats like the pink hair, but I couldn't get away with it interviewing Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson and those guys. Not because they wouldn't be cool with it, but because whenever someone wanted to make fun of them, they would haul out the picture of them being interviewed by the lady with pink hair. And how do I know that? Because we used to do it to Obama. So that's how I know. All right, Barty says gay marriage doesn't need to be conflated with trans rights. It's hurting both issues. Oh, that's interesting. That's an issue that I feel unqualified to question, so I just never questioned it. But Barty raised a really good point. They're separate things, separate communities, and yeah. All right, I'm gonna put some thought into that. Matt R says today I learned that Taylor Swift is named after James Taylor. Oh yeah, I didn't know that either. Okay, yeah, and actually I'm not a huge Taylor fan. I'm really not. But I think Ted made a really good point of that. If Taylor Swift shows up here on Thursday and endorses, that's going to be the story, and it's not going to be about Kamala Harris. So I think that it's not going to go in that direction. But a standalone event on a separate day, sure. Harry Hawkins with the sad news that they have influencer agents now. Seriously, you guys know how I feel about all this. No need to belabor it. Matt R. again says, if I am sent to hell, my job there will be influencer. Who are you going to influence in hell, Matt? That's what I'd like to know. Marcy Christopher says, loving your coverage. I hear a little enthusiasm in your voice. Enjoy the food there in Chicago. You know what I love is having in-person guests for 3 hours. It's such a mood lifter. It really is. And Patrick always says that I gather energy by doing it. And I really do. But I'll be in sobs in half an hour. And just a reminder that I will be back on the air where Scully is taking the first 2 hours. I'm taking the second. So all of the programming tonight will be live from the arena. It's going to be really good. Huge list of speakers. Very powerful. Very important. They're going to do a little Project 2025 presentation. That's fine. Gina Raimondo, Governor Hochul, AOC, HRC, Clyburn, Jamie Raskin, Jasmine Crockett, Raphael Warnock, Chris Coons, Dr. Jill, and the man himself, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. He's going to be finishing out the evening. So and there's a bunch of other people in there, but those are the highlights for you. Let's see. Harry Hawkins says, I want more information on the Turning Point canvassing operation. I've dealt with them professionally, and they do not have that infrastructure. Are they just getting canvassers from college Republican chapters? It seems strategically questionable to me. Yeah, Turning Points is one of 3. There's April Ryan, one of 3 outside groups that's going to be doing apparently the get out the vote for the Trump campaign. So I will keep an eye on that for you. And I think it's basically just because Turning Points is a young conservative group, and I think that's what they're doing is just getting their members to go out and knock on doors. Supine Jennings says, I believe I speak for most and that we would happily listen for hours to you and Amy Parnes people watching. Some great chemistry there. That's nice. Thank you very much. Okay, Glitter Geezer says, if you or Patrick get a chance, photos of you and your guests at the DNC would be fun. I think he's been posting them on the Twitter page. So yeah, I'm going to go and steal them and post them on Blue Sky. So we'll definitely have those. In the meantime, just want to remind you that I will be back on the air. What time, Patrick? Is it 8 p.m. East? Not 8 p.m. East. 8 p.m. East. I'll be back on the air. Scully precedes me, so keep it here. I got to turn it over to Real Clear Politics. In the meantime, huge thanks to Patrick Faris and to Johnny Foster. I'm Julie Mason. You're listening to Sirius XM live from the convention in Chicago. Okay, sorry if I screwed you up there, Johnny.
No, not at all. I just sent you all the pictures. I just sent you all the pictures. Yeah, great show. That's a lot of stuff to throw your way. Thanks for killing it at the end there. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Are you taking that phone charger?
I don't know. I was thinking I might.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how's it going?
Good. Is there a show coming up here?
Reproductive Rights.
They're here.
Yeah, they're here.
Let me get out of your way.
We have 5 more minutes. Take your time.
So much time.
Oodles and oodles of time. Hey, how are you?
Another week. Do you guys have the famous Julie Mason? I'm like,
Darling. Let me see. What do you have?
just a regular iPhone.
Okay. Let's see if somebody over there has one. 'Cause I have mine's an Android.
Where you want me, Andy?
Really?
Yeah.
So you're. No. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Actually,
Where do you want to sell?
you are there in the host
Okay.
seat, and then.
You sure? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll be right here.
Slide like a little bit closer to Andy.
Ooh, these chairs are zippy, man. What are these chairs? So yeah, I think you're.
Oh yeah, baby, let's go.
Here we go. It's radio time.
Stare right into the camera. Say hello. I got these guys on. Okay.
It's the 19th, correct? Yes.
August 19th.
I'm doing this with a
How we looking, Charlie?
iPad.
We're on the front page. We are live on the front page.
We're live on the
Reproductive
front
Politics.
page.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, we'll give them a little behind-the-scenes look.
Yeah, they can.
Which one
How
is
we
mine? 4 or
make
3?
the radio magic. I think you're this one, dude. You're plugged in here.
Do I have a producer in my ear? Is anyone there?
Player is live on the homepage right now,
good.
guys.
And so I just want to make sure. So we're going to do 4 segments. And how long is each segment? Yeah, okay. Okay. Okay, perfect. And who is in my ear? Who is that? Oh, hi, Jennifer. I didn't know you were in D.C. How are you? Oh, good. Oh, you know what? Take off your, take these things off. If you're going to be on TV, you should not have your...
I don't know. It'd be neater. What just happened to the... What? What? Take these off? I kind of like having the credentials on. It makes me feel important. I'm just going to wear credentials around like for the rest of my life. Just because it makes me feel important. be walking down the street and people be like, "What's that?" Okay. So if there's anyone watching on the homepage of Real Clear Politics right now, we are starting the show in about 2 minutes. We're currently, SiriusXM is running news at the top of the hour, and we will start our show momentarily with limited commercial breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll probably be live even during the commercial breaks. So no hot mic moments, people. Yeah.
So, do the next level. This is to your website.
Yeah.
So, if you want to look into that and make comments to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just did. Okay.
Welcome to Real Clear Politics for Monday, August 19th. I'm Andrew Walworth, and I'm joined by RCP President and co-founder Tom Bevan, Washington Bureau Chief Carl Cannon, and White House reporter Phil Wegman. And we are coming to you live from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. So, Tom, the big event tonight is President Biden's speech. There's a great Jackson Browne song called My Opening Farewell. So this is kind of an odd moment. What do you think we'll hear from Joe Biden tonight?
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome you all to my hometown. We'll see how it goes this week. Hopefully Chicago shows her best side and there's not too much chaos and destruction.
I did hear the protesters broke through the security perimeter and are confronting police now.
Did they really? Okay, well, so it's off to a bad start. Well, anyway, listen, it is odd that Joe Biden, the incumbent president of the United States, who was being lionized last weekend by Nancy Pelosi as needing to be on Mount Rushmore, is on Monday. And that's not typically where an incumbent president would be slotted.
Yeah.
He wanted to give them the full sort of treatment and visibility. So, nevertheless, I think Biden will. I mean, he's getting introduced by Jill, so he will get. I am sure they're going to have some video tribute. I'm not sure. We'll see how his speech goes and how rousing it is. But I'm sure he's going to get a very warm welcome from the crowd. And this is like his Carl, third farewell so far.
And third of 12 scheduled.
Well, but this might be the
like
actual
Michael
last
Jordan's
one.
farewell tour, or Pelé, who retired for over a 20-year period.
Or the Rolling Stones,
Yeah.
who just
They're still
always on
playing.
a farewell tour.
I
Yeah.
don't think
Well,
Biden's-
Biden, you know what? Biden's stepping down now. Under the Constitution, he could run in 2028. He's not precluded from running.
But he is going to be president for the next few months, so it's not like he's going away, riding off into the sunset necessarily.
Although there's a rumor he's going to California. Have you heard this, Phil? I heard this at the CNN Grill. That they're banishing him for the rest of the week to Santa Barbara. I do not know if that's true or not.
I do know that the president is going to be going on a vacation.
Yeah.
And he is going to be withdrawing from the convention to go spend time with family. And while we're exhausted by the end of the week, perhaps we'll all envy him.
Yeah. Well, this is how Gerard Baker put it in today's Wall Street Journal. He said, the ruthless dispatch of the former president was less Brutus and Cassius and more Jack Kevorkian. Not a hail of knives in the back, but a soft word in the ear, a gentle squeeze of the syringe, and farewell, my lovely. Pretty good prose.
I love Jerry Baker.
Jerry, no, he's a good writer.
Still got his fastball.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm gonna have to take Biden's side. I can see on this panel. Listen, he's 81. He's gonna be 82 the week of the election. He would have been 86 on 2 terms. It never made sense for him to run for president. He was the last person in America to realize this, but he finally did realize it, and this is a seamless transition. Instead of looking at a glass half empty, this guy has managed to hand off the baton to Kamala Harris. He agreed to do it, or it couldn't have happened. He's been lionized by the people that Jerry Baker says were trying to stick a syringe in his arm. This Pelosi comment about. We've had a lot of fun with it about Mount Rushmore. It reminded me that she's 84. I mean, maybe someone ought to have that talk with her. But Joe Biden is going to be. This is going to be a sustained applause tonight. These people, you're not hear a bad word about this guy, and he's much more popular now than before he made that announcement.
Right.
His numbers have flipped. He's got the best numbers he's had. Now that typically happens to former presidents when they leave office. This guy didn't even have to leave office to do it. It happened to LBJ in '68. Look, you look at this. The Democrats have done this really the right way.
Well, Phil, it does set up the question, though, of how does...
They committed a coup in the right way. There's a right way of doing a coup. They've done it.
You know the phrase bloodless coup.
But it does raise the question of how she runs as the change agent when tonight she has to sit there and celebrate all the things that went right, in her view, under the administration she served in for the last 3.5 years. I mean, that is kind of an interesting dance she has to do, isn't it?
It's a heck of a needle for the vice president to try and thread here, because on the one hand, she wants to take credit for all of his popular successes, and on the other, she wants to avoid some of the blame for the ongoing challenges like inflation, like the economy. One thing that has been interesting thus far is if you ask the White House, for instance, what does the president see as her greatest accomplishment? Their response is, it's not just one thing, it's a comprehensive whole. She was here for all of it. As we get closer and closer to the election, and as she tries to distance herself from the previous president, the current president, it's interesting that we sort of already feel that he is a past president. I think there's going to become more daylight. But for now, as they pass the torch, they want to herald this guy as Cincinnatus, someone who was selfless in handing off power, and forget about...
Love now is sort of reconsidering it and saying...
I mean, look, the only people who have hard feelings about the plane, Donilon and Anita Dunn.
Okay,
that's it. The 6 people who are in the bunker at the end... Yes, they are still angry and will, I think, hold a grudge until the end of days about the way that this went down. But look, there was evidence in the polling from early on that Democrats, they liked Biden, right? But they wanted to move on, and they got their wish. Although they wanted to hand him a gold watch and have him usher off the stage. Well, he wouldn't go, so he had to get the knife, syringe, whatever.
How about the vaudeville hook?
Yeah, whatever.
Let's be a little less violent, yeah.
But nevertheless, Democratic voters got what they wanted, so I don't think they really care about how it went down. They're not worried about that anymore. The only people who are worried about that are the ones that I mentioned earlier. And I think moving forward, the party's unified behind Harris right now.
Well, and I think that the message eventually got to President Biden himself. And I was speaking with a official on his campaign earlier today. He realized that if he lost to Donald Trump and had any hand in returning him to power, that would be his legacy. But if, on the other hand, he can catapult Harris and play a hand in that history-making presidency, making the first not only African-American but Asian, Pacific-American female president, then that lionizes him very, very quickly. And so this has been a tremendous turnaround in less than a month. He went from a drag to potentially someone who could help make history happen. And I think that was the appeal to him at the end, where it was Democrats are saying, you can't win this, but you can salvage and improve your own legacy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to move on, but Tom mentioned the polls. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the polls. You're listening to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm Andrew Walworth, and we will be back right after this.
I'm going to have to file another grievance with somebody for being censored by our host. I got this one. I got the grip. It's like the Grim Reaper reached over and touched me on the...
We're still
I know.
4 segments to go through.
I want this on the record. This is going live to Real Clear Politics right now.
You need to take
all of our readers to know.
You need to take it up with the HR department.
Well,
we have an HR department?
I'm the HR department.
That is the reason.
Grievance denied.
Listen, we can play back the tape. You will see Andy reach over and touch me on the arm.
It doesn't matter. The HR department
silence me.
has already ruled.
So you want to do polls first, or you want to do the
I don't care. Whatever you want to do.
Polls.
We'll do the polls quickly, but let's go through the polls because I want to talk about the Biden thing as well. I mean, the Trump rally.
Oh, I've got a good segue to that from the polls.
Okay.
Charlie just peeked out and was like, "You guys are live," as if I didn't know that, right? So like, Oh, okay.
For the masses to see.
This is the behind-the-scenes B-roll stuff that you can only get if you live stream it. You watch the live stream on RCP. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Oh, man. Okay. No more shushing me.
I wasn't shushing you. I was giving you a small hint.
He's the producer.
That we were going to move on.
The producer.
I'm trying to remember. There was a show that I was on where the host, the producer said when the I forget who it was. Gosh, but when they like tap the desk with their hand, that was the signal to like you end what you're doing. Like that was
in our show. You got to elbow the guy very hard in the throat.
I had a host once rip the earpiece out of his ear because we were telling them that we had to move on.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can do that. Just whip off the head.
Was that Bob Novak? Who was that?
No, I won't say because it's being live streamed.
Okay.
It was recently the anniversary of the death of Bob Novak. Tim Carney.
I saw Tim Carney posted a picture of him on as a I don't know how in his 20s probably young reporter,
smoking
cigarette, a little dart hanging out of his.
There you go.
Great American,
which is
kind man.
When I think of Bob Novak, that's not the picture that I think of him with the. He always wore the vest and had sort of the belly sticking out.
My favorite Bob Novak is the one that crushes heaters and file scoops.
It's okay. 30 seconds, guys.
Not hearing.
You can't hear anything?
No.
Welcome back to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm Andrew Walworth, and I'm talking with Tom Bevan, Phil Wegman, and Carl Cannon, and we are live at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Tom, let's talk about the polls for a minute. What came out this weekend that our listeners might be interested in?
Well, so two national polls came out, Washington Post, ABC News, and CBS, showing Kamala Harris up 4 points and 3 points, I believe, respectively. She's up 1.4% in our Real Clear Politics national average in the two-way race. And listen, she's clearly, that's about a 4.5 point swing from where Biden was when he exited the race on July 21st. I think the interesting thing is that in both of those polls, the number one issue, on the minds of voters is economy and inflation. And Trump has leads on both of those issues. And yet, he's still falling behind.
Right.
So that's clearly not the full story, right? If it was just about the issues, Trump would be winning. But he's not. And I think that speaks to the fact that, A, she's energized different parts of the Democratic coalition and brought them home just purely on their partisanship, right? Irrespective of issues and whatnot. And the other piece is obviously that Trump is on those intangibles where voters ask, his favorable rating, do you feel favorably towards him? Do you think he's honest? Do you think he, is trustworthy and those sorts of things? And that's where Trump is struggling because, he'll give a 45-minute speech and 40 minutes of it, or maybe less, are about the issues, right? Where he's talking and making actually some good points against Harris on those. And then he'll spend 5 minutes talking about her identity or her looks or whatever. And that becomes the headline and that turns off more voters than it brings in. And so unless he gets more disciplined in the very near future, I think it's, I don't know that he's going to.
I might quibble with your time ratio in there. It seems to me like he spends 30 seconds on the issues and 4 or 5 hours attacking his.
Oh, no.
I may be exaggerating.
Maybe.
But in all seriousness, that Washington Post poll, I think it was 49-45, if I recall, in the two-way, but 47-45 in the five-way, it was closer. And Dan Balz, who heads their polling unit, and the senior, and one of the most knowledgeable political writers in the country. Dan had an interesting column on page 2. That paper, I still get the paper, newsprint. But on the inside, on page 2, he had an interesting column about Trump, and he pointed out that Donald Trump's had real trouble since Harris became the nominee. He was just beating Biden like a drum. He had it down cold. He clearly was relishing running against Biden, and he was doing well. And he's struggled with Harris. He's called her names. He's attacked her identity. He's tried out different things on her. He's had trouble. Mm-hmm. But Dan, sort of almost an aside, like addressing Democrats, said, "But you know what? I mean, Trump had an August like that in 2016." And what happened was he got his sea legs in October, and he became suddenly very effective on the stump in October of 2016, surprised the Democrats, and then they were back on their heels, and they didn't quite know what to do, and he won that election. So, and Dan's piece, his whole piece was, this thing is close. Mm-hmm. He wasn't saying 49-45, it's over. He was saying, this is within the margin of error, and we have to remember how Trump performed 8 years ago. He got better as the thing went on.
Right. And Phil, Trump was in Pennsylvania today, which probably is the most important swing state right now, it looks like. Butler, Pennsylvania, I believe, giving his speech. And again, it was sort of, as we said, it was a mix of sort of economic policy stuff and then a lot of attacks on Kamala Harris and still on Joe Biden as well, right?
Yeah, it's clear that the former president misses Biden. He wanted to run against the guy. He doesn't get a chance because, it's appropriate to note this at the beginning of the Democratic convention. When we were at the Republican convention, the GOP felt like they were in the middle of a dream. They had never had it this good. It was a unity moment. They saw several different pathways to 270. Now they're back on their heels. And one of the things that Trump has struggled with is he has been unable to switch gears from Biden to Harris. Now, he's tried, by arguing that, she's a communist, that price controls are going to ruin the economy. But even then, if he's on the stump and not reading from a teleprompter, he goes back to Biden. We saw a little bit more discipline today in Pennsylvania, where the former president was talking about how she was on I believe the phrase was regulatory jihad against American power plants. And we'll see if he catches his stride. But, what I'm hearing from folks close to the Trump campaign is that there's a real frustration that he didn't immediately pivot to Harris. We'll see if Dan Balls is correct, and he can do that in October.
And the interesting thing about that, too, is in that speech, if you watch him, because you can tell when he's on prompter and when he's gone off prompter. And a lot of those attacks on Biden were on prompter. He was sort of like just reading through them, which I thought was interesting. But the other thing I would say is, I think Kamala Harris may have given him an opening to get his sea legs and sharpen his attacks with her economic proposals, because he's now, before he was called her cackling Kamala, now he calls her Comrade Kamala. And I think Comrade Kamala might actually, it's much more effective, it's much more issues-based as opposed to cackling and making fun of her laugh.
Tell him about that ad that he ran, the Trump ad, where he just quotes Kamala Harris.
Just took
talking.
Her,
It's a very brief ad, and he has Kamala Harris talking about what she'll do to the economy, and then you cut it to Trump, and he says, "How
much the price of bread and ground beef has gone up since the pandemic."
Since the pandemic, but which means since Biden became president.
That's right.
And Trump just cuts in and says, "I approve this ad." It was very effective.
Yeah. So, look, I think he may be onto something that will be more fruitful for him in terms of attacking and being more focused. But we'll see. I mean, he could come out tomorrow with another nickname that makes...
He keeps setting the bar for Harris very low, though. We see this from the former president to his campaign. They're making an issue of the fact that the vice president will not meet the press. And, of course, our bias here is towards transparency. We want more access. We want more press conferences, not less. But that's pretty easy to do. If Harris answers a few questions that are softballs, then she can check that box and say, I answered your tough questions, Donald. Move on. So I think that the economic attack is, the one that will be the winner, because he can point to both the failures of the Biden administration, in his opinion, and then also pin that on Harris.
Yeah, the Butler speech, the new thing, which seemed new to me at least, was he attacked her father as a Marxist professor. which is sort of a new line of attack. Carl, what do you make of that?
You know what? It would have been perhaps more effective had he not said 8 years ago that Ted Cruz's father killed Kennedy. You know,
go after someone's parents.
Do you know what he sounds?
Accurate.
You know what he's like? He sounds like, Hulk Hogan was at the Republican convention, and Trump's got this. He's got his attitude. Remember All-Star Wrestling when Hulk Hogan first started? They'd have these tag team wrestlers, and one guy'd just be the crap beat out of him. He could barely walk, and he'd limp over somehow, and then tag the guy, and then the new guy would come in fresh, bigger, and the crowd favorite. That Trump acts like that wrestler. Like it's not fair. Like he had Biden down and out, and then suddenly it's this tag team, and there's Harris, muscles beaming, fresh candidate. Doesn't seem fair to Trump.
Well, J.D. Vance, I think, was in Pennsylvania as well today, in Philadelphia. Tom, are they smart to be sort of focused right now on that state? Is that really the key swing state at this moment?
It is, although I think the polling shows that a lot of these other states that were kind of off the board when Biden was the nominee are back in play with Harris. And I'm thinking specifically of Arizona and Georgia.
Nevada?
Trump still leads in Nevada by 1 point. But, I mean, listen, this race, to me, this race is back to 2016. I mean, you've got Kamala Harris leading by 1.5 points in the national polls. But if you look at those big 7 battleground states, the biggest lead of all of them, Kamala Harris, is 2 points in Michigan, 1 point in Wisconsin. Everything else is less than a point.
Right.
I think Trump has a 1.2 lead in Nevada. But, 4 of the 7 states, or 3 of the 7 states, are 0.1%, 0.2%. Really, really, really close. And so Pennsylvania is obviously important. 19 electoral votes. I mean, if you look at the map in the swing states, it's the biggest. Georgia's 16, Arizona's 11. So if you can win Pennsylvania, if you don't win Pennsylvania, you have to win 2 states to replace Pennsylvania.
Right, yeah,
that's
the biggest prize.
Yeah, that's why it's so important. So I think it is a hugely important state, and I think whoever wins Pennsylvania is going to win this election.
And Carl, you're always trying to get us to expand the map beyond these same swing states that we keep talking about. Do you see anything there? She's doing better in Florida and in Texas, from what I understand.
You say Tom's chortling, but I wanted to expand the map when Joe Biden was the candidate. Right. Will Kamala Harris carry Virginia? I would assume so. Minnesota is now out of play as far as I'm concerned.
New Hampshire is probably
out of play.
Too.
I don't know about New Hampshire, but it's only 3 electoral votes. But I thought Minnesota was in play before. I certainly don't think it is now, and the selection of Tim Walz probably cemented that. So I'm almost back to 7. I hate to say that because in a country this big,
you're not a Florida believer.
That Florida's in play.
Yeah,
it might be. I like to expand the map. I like to cover the whole country. I wish California was in play. I grew up there, and it used to be a swing state. I guess it isn't anymore.
not
Hawaii may be a swing state, and I am willing to go there for several months to provide on-the-ground coverage.
Make the sacrifices necessary.
Well, you're listening to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm Andrew Walworth. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this with Juan Williams. Don't go away. You're out and Vincent. No, Juan.
How we doing? How we looking? More. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm gonna write from you. Have to stay here, and then I will write.
So you can do it.
I know what she's saying.
You guys did publicize.
How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Good.
But that means
Thanks, Phil.
that many people are on the picture. But they're staying.
So, Carl, I'll go ahead. I'll do the quick, because I'm just saying they're going to honor Jesse Jackson tonight. So maybe should I start with that? You think, and then, or do you want to intro the whole thing?
Whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
Well, let me do it, and I'll do Jesse Jackson. Then you do the. I'll just ask a quick question.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Juan.
What an experience.
We should just do the segment on what a shit show it was trying to get in.
What time did you come?
We were out there like
We stood in line together. Juan and I actually
how
walked
long did it take?
half a mile trying to get into a different.
It took a long time. It took an hour.
You got to move down just a little bit. Oh, I got a bar right here. So.
That's it? What the hell happened? Because what I heard was that the gate Tom and I came in, that they then subsequently closed because of protesters. So I thought the line got worse.
Yeah, I walked around.
That's what we did back there. Hey, how are you? Good, how are you? Nice to see you. I know who you are.
So Jennifer, just in terms of breaks, if I go to 6:45, is that right? And then we'll have like 12 minutes left for the end, or do we go right to 7 o'clock? Is that right?
He's from Maryland? Yeah. He's from PG.
56. 56:50. Okay. Okay, so that's good. So I'll go. If I want to just have the two, I'll go at 44:45. Okay, and that will give me about.
Steve Kerr speaking tonight. Steve Kerr.
Is speaking?
What's up?
No, because I want to do 2 segments. So,
Go ahead.
and he's got to leave. So I'll go to 44. I'll go out.
Look ahead and smile and laugh. Thank you.
Steve Kerr is speaking?
Yeah. 8 p.m.
Tonight.
Yeah. Surprised they didn't put him after Biden.
Popovich mad?
They move Biden into the 7:30 slot and then have Steve Kerr.
When's Biden? 9 o'clock?
I think so.
What time's Biden speaking?
Somebody said it was really late, like 10:50 Eastern.
Wow.
No.
I hope not.
Welcome back to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm Andrew Walworth, and I've got with me Tom Bevan, Carl Cannon, and we're joined by Juan Williams, old friend of the show and Washington reporter. So, Juan, tonight they're going to honor Jesse Jackson. He's 82 years old. He's suffering from Parkinson's. They had a big tribute to him last night as well as part of the Rainbow Push event. This is Chicago. This is his town. What do you make of the Jesse Jackson? What's his role? And, what did he really sort of help set the stage for some of what we're going to see tonight?
That's a very rich question, Andrew. You think about Jesse Jackson, 1988 was Atlanta Convention.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the keys there was Jackson conceding. And part of the concession was to change the rules for delegate allocation, to make it possible for minorities to be better represented among the delegates, the voting delegates who would choose the candidate. That really is a precedent for what subsequently happened with Barack Obama in 2008, and it has changed the whole way in which we think about Democratic Party politics, especially as you posit it in contrast to Republican Party politics and the way delegates are selected there. I apologize for going into something that's a little tedious, but I think it's really historically important. The second thing to say is Sheila Jackson Lee recently died. And at the funeral, there was Jesse Jackson next to Bill Clinton on stage. And I don't know if you saw this, but he was in a wheelchair. They had him reclined, kind of head back, and it just looked like, this is not the man that I knew, covered, argued with for so long. It makes your heart sag.
He was a virile, strong.
Yeah, this is a guy, a high school quarterback,
played
kind
in
of
college
guy.
too.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question about this, because I was thinking about Jesse Jackson. Then it got me thinking about 1972. Shirley Chisholm runs for president, African-American congresswoman from New York. That's the year Willie Brown, the mayor of San Francisco, the head of the California delegation, there's a big fight over the delegation, the McGovern Convention.
Right.
And he famously shouts, "Give me back my delegation." And since then, you've had this steady progression every year. Jesse Jackson ran in 84. He ran again in 88. Barack Obama runs successfully 10 years later. And now Kamala Harris is here, except for Donald Trump, who had that flight of fancy about her ethnic, the weird comments about her ethnic background. This strikes me as a real milestone and a sign, of how amazingly far America's come just in the time you and I have been, since we were in college.
Absolutely. So I wrote a book about the first civil rights movement called Eyes on the Prize, America's Civil Rights Years. And you stop and think about it, Carl, the benchmarks there were 54, the Brown decision, to 65, the Voting Rights Act. And I think the Voting Rights Act really defined that period. In other words, if you're thinking about racial equality, let's go to the politics. You think about what even President Kennedy, going back to Kennedy, was very clear, and Robert F. Kennedy was very clear. If we can deliver on the vote, we can try to change some of that Southern, time Democratic, obstructionism with regard to maintaining segregation in American society. I've just finished another book, comes out in January. I hope you guys will have me on to discuss it at that time. It's called New Prize for These Eyes. And I'm saying we're in a second civil rights era right now. Because if you think about Obama and his speech in 2004 in Boston, when he talked about, not a black America, not a white America, not red, not blue, but one America, he opened the door not only to his election, but to talk of a post-racial America, that we were somehow going to be into this new phase. Then, after his election, we get a huge backlash, beginning with the Tea Party, and then you get lots of anger and arguments about police enforcement. Remember Trayvon Martin?
That's right.
And then you get Trump beginning the birther thing, Trump's election, and the backlash is very real. And now, as we sit here in 2024, you have the possibility of a black woman.
Yeah.
This is a new era of activism based on a new premise. So previously it was about, let's try to end segregation and bring in equal voting rights, and that if black people have the power to vote, then we can have black politicians will not be pushing kind of hard right politics like that. And now we're in a period where, are those politicians able to deliver? Lots of black people had arguments with Obama, about...
Well, Obama got larger share of the white vote than Bill Clinton did.
That this.
And I say that we're in the United Center, we're in the atrium United Center, where one of the great crossover stars, Michael Jordan, there's a statue to him right behind us.
I thought that was you. Oh, was it you? Oh, okay. All right.
But
I was going to say, what the thread for me being sort of, I grew up in Seattle, but I've now lived in Chicago longer than anywhere in my entire life, right? And we talk about Jesse Jackson, right, and his legacy here, Rainbow Push Coalition, Barack Obama being from here, Bill Clinton being here in '96 for that convention. Chicago's been central to a lot of these stories, which is great and interesting, and I think it's fun to be back in Chicago, and listening and seeing this stuff all play out.
Well, I was telling someone, I remember when I was a young reporter at the Washington Post, and this was probably a trip that I took to Chicago in the late 70s, early 80s, and just being struck by the rank segregation, those huge towers that were projects. Yeah. And they were filled with violence and degradation. It was an awful thing. It was just
and they were literally a mile from some of the swankiest, richest
That
folks.
was what I was going to say. And it scared me, as a young black guy. I just thought, boy, this is a tough town. I don't know. And the politics of it was pretty strict in terms of the segregation. It wasn't only segregation in terms of black and white, but if you were Greek and Italian and Jewish, you could go down the line. The aldermen, how those situations work.
Yeah.
So now, boy, on this trip, the place just looks so brilliantly beautiful. Chicago's having a beautiful week for this convention, and I think there's a variety of people here at the convention. Again, I just think people even from the 90s with Clinton would be shocked.
Yeah, well, the one segregation that still exists is the Cubs and the Sox fans do not get along.
But because I know you've written about this, I mean, are you bothered at all by what people call identity politics and the rise of that within the Democratic Party in particular? Because we do see a lot of today, just for instance, there seem to be like a lot of the seminars are sort of divided out by race or gender or sexual orientation. You get the feeling that these fundraising events that they've done online sort of seem to be sort of very funneled. And I'm wondering how you view that and how that squares with, when you're talking about Barack Obama and that idea that there was not a red America, not a black America, not a white America, not a blue America. I mean, it's a little bit of a conflict, don't you think?
Yeah, I think lots of people were disappointed. People do not think that we entered into a post-racial America. I think the reality is demographically we are a much more diverse America, and that gives voice to people who have different opinions and different life experiences. And then the way in which people organize, and again, we're here at a convention, you can see the politics of that organization, oftentimes is quite separatist. And this is the point of your question, I think. But is it the case that people are now, I think, evolving? It's almost like, the cocoon is breaking and you see people say, well, it's okay to be gay, Americans, and to be out about it. And I turned 70 this year. Never in my lifetime have I seen the acceptance of gay people like I've seen now.
Right.
Never.
I think the voters, though, are usually ahead of the politicians and certainly ahead of the press on this. I went to Richard Nixon's funeral. Bill Clinton spoke there, and it was in Orange County, California. Orange County was famously a very right-wing place, a place where a guy who elected to the Congress, John Schmitz, or John Rousseau, was asked, you've been at John Bircher when you were a kid. He said, yeah, it was after the middle of the road vote in Orange County. that Orange County, where Nixon grew up, where Reagan ran up these huge majorities and sent him to the governorship, the line for Nixon was a mile long, and I walked the whole line, interviewed. Every third couple was a mixed race couple. Every other person was Hispanic or Asian. These were people, a lot of them immigrants. And I said, well they weren't white birchers. No. And I said, why are you here? And they said, well, he was the President of the United States. It's important to show respect to the President of the United States. I think the American people, maybe it's been this way a while, are kind of ahead of the political class and the academics and the race identity people. I think what most Americans see when they see Kamala Harris is a woman whose father, who had a black father who came to this country from the islands, from the Caribbean to study, married a woman whose parents are from India, have this kid. She goes to public schools in Oakland, California, excels, goes to university, goes into politics, wins every election she's ever been in. I mean, it's a hell of a success story, really.
Yeah. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, you're listening to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm with Tom and Carl, and we've got Juan Williams with me here, and we've got just a few minutes left. Juan, I'm just wondering, what's your expectation? What are you looking for over the next couple days? How would you gauge this as a success or not a success in terms of the convention? What did the Democrats have to accomplish in order to walk out of here feeling good?
Well, the simple answer is define Kamala Harris in a positive manner, that people will say, oh yeah, she was vice president, but I didn't know what to think about her. Or some people might say, I thought she was negative given the way that conservative media often portrayed her. But now I like her, I like who this person is. What Carl was talking about, that's number one item. But number two would be, I think, the unified front for the party. There's been a rupture, and some people, Maureen Dowd wrote yesterday in the Times about the idea that there was a coup, that, essentially Biden got stabbed in the back. So if there's any kind of resentment or anger there, that has to go away, because they're now in for a fight. This is a really close race, and they've got to come together if they hope to win.
Yeah, well, thanks. So we've been talking to Juan Williams. I've got Tom Babin and Carl Cannon with me. You're listening to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM, and we're live here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this.
time we got?
You got like a minute. You don't have time to pee. Well, I don't think you have time to pee. That's
1 minute? I think it's 1 minute.
I'm live here.
So I might want to just tie it in a knot. I can do that, not everyone.
We're bringing Alex in for the last segment.
We are?
Yeah.
Okay. What are we talking about?
Protests.
Okay. Getting better. Oh, yeah. Woo! Gonna break the internets.
We didn't advertise it.
Hello.
Let's advertise it. Okay.
You want me to go to you first or second? Tom, I'll go to you first about the protests. Says that.
What was your maiden name?
Mackenzie. Sue Mackenzie.
No, I'm just kidding. You could, but the people don't know you as that anymore.
They know me as Mackenzie Walworth.
Yeah.
I could do it. I don't mind.
Nah, don't worry about it. I was kidding.
No, you got to be
Besides, we believe in nepotism in this country.
right? Yeah.
Hopefully you will after we do this.
Pay attention.
I am.
What are you doing?
And don't feel you have to wait for me to say something. If you
He never does.
just-
Well,
I'm
can you hear?
just
You'll be fine.
not doing a fact-based thing here.
You don't have to, but you've got your little cough button too. So, thanks, Juan.
Thank you, Juan. Juan's great.
Yeah.
Biden's
Love
not going
Juan.
to speak till 10:30 Eastern.
It's way past his bedtime.
How can he stay awake?
Past my bedtime.
Hope he
I won't
does.
even be up watching it. I'll be sleeping.
It's only 9:30.
I did get up at
9:30 here.
4:30 this morning, so. And I haven't gotten my nap. I'm a little cranky.
You're fine. You're fine. What are we talking about in this segment?
Protests, vasectomies, and pro-Palestinian protests.
Did they break through? What Phil said.
They did
They did?
Yeah.
through the one perimeter, but
Okay.
there were like 3 more to go. So
Yeah.
So we've got about 10 minutes for this, guys.
Okay.
Thank you. That would be good, yeah.
You know, AOC has a spot tonight.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm Andrew Walworth, and we're coming to you live from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. I've got Tom Bevan with me. I've got Carl Cannon with me, and joining us for this segment is Alex Mackenzie Walworth, happens to be my wife, Chicago native, and a producer at Grace Creek Media. So, Alex, welcome to the program.
Better half has arrived.
Thank you very much.
And Tom, let's start with the protests. We have really 2 brands, it seems to me. We have the pro-Palestinian protesters are out there, and then we have these sort of what would you call them? Pro-vasectomy?
Pro-abortion.
Pro-abortion. And so what do you make of the
Pro-choice?
protest?
Well, I mean, we'll see what happens with the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, whatever we're going to call them. They had said there were going to be 100,000 here. I don't think that's true. I think that was overstated from what I've seen. But they are here. There are a lot of them. I don't know what the actual number is, but they are trying to, and this has been a fight that's been ongoing for weeks and months with the city trying to figure out, they were filing petitions and applications that they could be somewhere near the United Center, within sight and sound of the United Center. Initially, I think they were placed over by the McCormick Place, which is 3 miles away. So they're definitely here. They're close, and I think they've even, as some people were saying, broken through like the initial perimeter. So We'll see how much attention they get. The other stuff, the pro-choice, pro-abortion, like marching through the streets with a as abortion, pills.
What Megyn Kelly said, 18-foot high uterus.
IUD. It's an IUD, Carl.
An IUD.
Outside.
Yes.
Is there a van where they were performing
giving vasectomies?
Vasectomies.
Yes,
weren't they?
yes, that was the one
Earlier today. So if you haven't made it there, you've probably missed your opportunity.
Missed your chance.
It was like
get a free one
a
anyway.
bookmobile where
Carl,
you get a
you
free
missed your chance.
vaccine. I haven't missed my chance. This is Chicago. This is where the Blues Brothers film was made. And if there's a vasectomy, like a bookmobile vasectomy, they just better hope John Belushi doesn't run into it in a car while you're having a vasectomy. That would not be good.
Well, that would be news if John Belushi showed up.
I guess he's long gone. God bless him.
So, Agence France Presse reported that this current Palestinian / everything else demonstration drew about less than 10,000 people today. They were expecting up to 100,000 people. So maybe it's a thing that will grow as the convention goes on. But today, I would caution people when they're reading about and looking at these demonstrations, because often they can make it seem a lot bigger and more powerful than it is. I'm not saying it isn't, but right now, this coalition to march on the DNC is reproductive rights, free Palestine, black liberation, immigrants' rights. So it's kind of like a salad bowl of different causes. And I will be very interested to see what messaging breaks through.
Alex, let me ask you a question about that, because a week ago or so, Kamala Harris was giving a speech and was heckled by some of these anti-Israel types. And she just cut him off, said, you know what? You keep talking. If you want Trump elected.
Yes.
Otherwise, be quiet and let me talk.
Right.
I wonder if that message has gone through into the precincts of the left, because it's a pretty blunt point.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it could be that partly they're saying, do these demonstrations. Go. To me, I grew up in Chicago. I was very young during the '68 riots, but that was so organic. I mean, that was just rage in the streets. And
a lot of it by the police.
Right. But what I'm seeing here, it just feels very performative. So I'm kind of wondering if go ahead, have your performance, get the message out, but we're really not changing anything.
Yeah, and to that point, Alex and I, we arrived a couple days ago, and we were downtown, Michigan Avenue, and the police presence was amazing. We were walking down, and there was like a block and a half of tightly packed policemen. And when you got to the end of it, you saw the protest that they were prepared for. The protest was tiny.
It was
relative.
like a quarter of a block of people.
Yeah, and yet I saw some of the photographs from that today. And of course, this is just something people probably know, but they should be aware of, that the photographs made it look like it was a much bigger protest than.
Well, not only that, we were talking about this earlier, because I live in Evanston, which is 30 minutes away to the north, and we were getting alerts on our phones about the security and the rolling security going on Michigan Avenue for these protests, and it made it seem like, if you just looked at this alert on your phone, that, oh my gosh, there's these massive protests that are happening. So it's I think that it was a little bit of clickbait, and the media often falls into that trap, right? They'll elevate the squeakiest wheel or the smallest minority of voices because it allows them to sort of portray it as a bigger deal, and therefore get more ratings and views and clicks and whatever.
There are stores that are boarded up, however. I mean, there are, and like I said, the police presence that we've seen so far has been pretty impressive.
Unscientifically, at least for this protest that we saw, was 3-1 police to protesters, and it was a very impressive show by the police. It was really something.
So, Alex, let me ask you what I've been asking other people, which is, when you look at this convention for this week, what do you expect, or what do you think the Democrats have to do to sort of walk out of here feeling good about what they've accomplished?
I think that they will do a very good job of creating a sense of democratic unity, and the idea that there are all of the Democratic really power brokers are here and bestowing their grace upon Kamala Harris. So I think that if that all goes according to plan, she'll walk out and it will be love and fields of poppies.
A good joy is back.
There's no reason to believe that Joe Biden won't be able to rise to the occasion tonight. It's a little late for him. It's late in the evening. I'll grant you.
Late for me.
Yeah.
Late for you.
But he's got a teleprompter there. He's proven he knows how to read it. He has to like what they've been doing. Maybe he didn't like being replaced. Maybe he didn't like being shoved out. But he has to like how they're lionizing him and making him into the second coming of Franklin Roosevelt. And if he reads that script and he's gracious and he doesn't give any kind, if he's got any kind of second thoughts, he keeps them to himself, I think he'll have passed the test, and these people are going to be happy and they'll be on their way.
Yeah. Well, I started the show by quoting Jackson Browne, the opening farewell. James Taylor will be playing tonight. So it is also a 70s kind of throwback for those of us who enjoy that kind of music. Tom's too young to remember all that, but...
I'm a Jackson Browne fan. James Taylor, too.
So they do have some star power.
Well, that's the one thing the Democrats always have had, star power. They have these luminaries that, Hollywood stars and musicians, John Legend and
the other
Perry.
They get Lee Greenwood and Hulk Hogan. The other
pretty
side
much everybody.
Bruce
Hulk
Springsteen,
Hogan,
John Legend,
Kid Rock
doesn't really do it for you.
Beyonce or whatever. Look, I think the Democrats, they know how to put on a good show. This will be a good show. I don't expect there will be, and I think that fractures within the party are overblown. It looks like the protests aren't going to be huge or hugely disruptive. And so I think the Democrats are poised to have a good week. And then the question is, well, what do they get out of it? Because at the end of the day, Kamala can take her sort of vibes campaign out of this, but she still has to come up with policies. She still has to, at some point she's going to have to face the press, you'd think. I mean, I just don't see how she can. Well, and she's also going to have to face Donald Trump in a debate at some point, which is currently scheduled for, September 10th in Philadelphia. So, this will be a nice sort of send-off for her into the wilderness of the campaign, because it's going to get...
Into the maw.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to get real, very fast, and it's going to be a very, I think, bitter, tumultuous campaign for the next. How many days we got left? Like 70 something.
Something like that. Yeah, it's not that many, and voting starts
exactly
second week in September.
That's the other thing to remember. The vibes from this convention may carry over and help with early voting, with mail-in voting. So
yeah. Well, you've been listening to Real Clear Politics on Sirius XM. I'm Andrew Walworth. I've been talking with Carl Cannon, Tom Bevan, and Alex Walworth. It's great to have her here with us today.
You're fired. She's hired.
Thank you for having me.
Good. We'll be back tomorrow night. Have a great evening.